Sounds super. All right, well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. So I am going to just give you a little quick view of the agenda and just kind of give you the heads up for those of you who've joined us before. We're going to do our recent enhancements, upcoming enhancements, and then have time for question and answer at the end. So as Graham mentioned, if you think of questions as we're going along, please go ahead and put them into the Q&A panel, and then we'll be glad to answer those towards the end of the webinar. All right, so just a few things to kind of throw in before we jump into the database. If you have not joined us for 2018 classroom training, I encourage you to do so. We've got a couple of basics coming up, 2 more left for 2018. Our next one is in July. It's actually next Thursday and Friday in Huntersville, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. It's a 2-day class kind of covering the basics of Jackrabbit. We'd love to have you there. And then we've got a number of Beyond the Basics left. I think we've got 7 or 8 left for the rest of the year through November across the U.S. and 1 more in Canada. And then if you really want like the whole enchilada, join us for our West User Conference in Las Vegas in November. We'd love to see you there. You can find all of these on our webpage on the classroom trainings. You can see the URL there on your screen. And then if you haven't connected with us on social media, you can join our Jackrabbit Software Users Group on Facebook. We're also active on Twitter, and we have a YouTube channel where our video person makes a ton of fantastic videos there. So find us online. All right, so let's get this party started and jump right into a database. We're logged into the training database. I'm going to go over, we had a number of enhancements for the month of June. For those of you who joined us last month, we mentioned that our developers have started working on a new process for enhancements. Those of you who've been Jackrabbit users for a while know we typically put out in or release our enhancements on Tuesdays, and this new process that our developers are using has gone to something called a sprint system where the enhancements are rolling out roughly every 2 weeks. So you're going to start seeing a few more of them, but just spread a little bit apart. So this is reviewing the 2 sprints we had in June, and we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. The first one has to do with the events module in our database. If we go in and we look at an event and look at a birthday party, you can see that you've always had this copy event type button there. So you're able to go in and copy an event type without having to enter everything from scratch. One of the things our developers have added is once you've gone in and started adding your specific dates and times, now you can copy those as well. And when you copy them, you can add an additional date, and it gives you the ability to copy enrollment. So you're able to more efficiently add events to existing event types on different dates without having to start from scratch. So, and if it's something you have frequently happen, maybe like a parents' night out where you've got a pretty consistent enrollment, you can copy that enrollment as well and then go ahead and post your fees additionally too. So something great and exciting there. The next one goes to our Tools menu. We're going to go to Tools, Edit Settings. And one of the things, this actually just released on Tuesday, but I wanted to go ahead and point it out because you can actually see it now. If you notice, I am on the Organization Defaults page, and you can see that the sub-navigation menu highlights where I am. And our developers wanted to make it a little bit more obvious for you where you are in the database all the time. So any of these edit settings, when you go to that page, when you click on it, you're going to show, it's going to stay consistent with your sub-navigation there. So it's going to highlight where you are. Wanted to also look at the drop-down list. Another thing that they've done is when we look at our Category 1, they've updated the terminology for hide and private for these two columns. And they've given you a little bit of additional information right here, just in case you forget. The first column hides these categories from your customers. The second category hides it from your users within the drop downs of your database. A really good way to explain that, if we look at our sessions and we look at hide from customers, hide from users, you can see in this database I've got sessions from 2015, 2016. You don't want your clients seeing that when they're logging into the parent portal or choosing classes out of the online web registration, so you can hide it from them, but you can also hide it from yourself so it doesn't appear every time you're looking at a drop down in your database when you're doing a session search. And the benefit of that is, again, those of you who've been with us for a while know we recommend that you never delete your information in your drop downs if you've used it in the past and it's something you may use. Instead, you hide it so you can bring it back and report on it. So if you wanted to go back at a later date and run a report on what your revenue was, maybe for 2015, 2016, you can just unhide it from the database or from the users, go in, run your reports, and then go back and hide it again. So it's a great way to kind of keep your database nice and clean and tidy, but still have your information handy when you're ready. All right, our next one, we're going to go to the students who is scheduled to be here report. And this one is just a couple of different changes that have been made to this report. One of the first ones is you can now multi-select your category 1. So you can go through and pick multiple categories all at one time, or you can go through and kind of randomly pick a few here, pick a few there, but you've got the option to do multiple categories rather than just one at a time. Our developers have also added a search criteria for instructor. That was already an output column in the report, but now they want to make it easier for you to find who's scheduled to be here for a specific instructor. So you're going to be able to find your information a little bit more quickly. And then they've added a show student ID or barcode ID down at the bottom in the display settings. You'll notice some of these default to no. So when we click submit on the search criteria, here's your instructors column there that was already there. Depending on whatever you put in, you'll see your resulting report. And you'll also notice that I'm showing 2 columns hidden. You can show hide columns, and that's going to be those columns there that were defaulted to no on the main page, so the student barcode ID and the roll note. So if you check those boxes and apply, then they're going to actually show up. And you can see with this one in particular, I don't have student barcodes entered, but now you've got your student barcode entered here column. So it's a great way to find information quickly and easily. Again, that's kind of the goal our developers are working for. Our next enhancement refers, and there's actually sort of a related, it's sort of the same thing, but it appears differently depending on where you are in your status with Jackrabbit. It deals with our e-commerce or our e-payments. For those of you that have credit cards set up, this database that we're in today actually is set up for vaulting. When you set up your e-commerce or your e-payments with Jackrabbit, when you're working with our gateway providers, SafeSave or CNH, they're going to ask you if you want your credit card information vaulted. And what vaulting does is it encrypts the credit card information, so you're actually it's vaulting it away. It's more secure. It's more I guess more secure is the easiest way to say it. And what that does is it's going to make things kind of more consistent throughout your database. Our developers have gone through and adjusted some things again so that if you set up your e-commerce and choose not to vault or chose not to vault when you've already set it up, we're going to fix things now so credit card information won't be saved for new clients going forward. So if you're an existing client and you've already have your e-commerce set up and are not vaulting for your existing orgs, we're not going to allow any new families that come in to save their credit card information. They can still use the one-time swipe or the one-time card enter information, but it's not going to save. If you already have families in your database with credit cards, it's not going to delete them out at this time, but it's not going to let any new families do it. If you're a brand new organization with Jackrabbit and you haven't set up your e-commerce yet, when you do, if you choose not to vault, then it's just going to disable it completely, so they're not going to see the option to save a credit card or enter a credit card through the parent portal. So that's just something to increase security for you and your parents. So we just wanted to pass that along as well.
Tami, sorry to interrupt. Can I just clarify a couple things on that? Sorry. The vaulting, if you are with SafeSave or with CNH Financial, vaulting actually isn't an option. It is an automatic thing. Vaulting is required by PCI, Payment Card Industry Standards. And so anyone using SafeSave or CNH Financial, your cards will already be vaulted. We did have some legacy clients with other carriers, merchant accounts rather, that didn't vault. And therefore, if you haven't switched, you may have that situation where you're not vaulting. If you have any questions or doubts or not quite sure about what's going on there, please email our e-commerce team. That's ecommerce@jackrabbittech.com, and they can verify how you're set up and make sure that you're all okay. The bottom line is just for enhanced security for credit cards, we're no longer allowing credit cards to be entered if they are not being vaulted. And that's just a clarification. Sorry, Tami, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you for that immensely for clarifying, because that is something I was unaware of. So that's good to know.
We learn something new every day, right?
Absolutely. All right. So moving on to our staff portal, got a couple of cool, exciting things here. We're going to go ahead and launch this, and I am going to log into the staff portal. And when we go in, you're going to be able to see, when we look at managed classes, I'm going to expand this just a little bit, but a couple of enhancements. You can see here, I've got an advanced tumbling private with Graham. Graham, I'm so excited that you're teaching tumbling now. So we've got advanced tumbling, and it says 0 enrolled, and the name of the class shows with the instructor. But if you can see up here, once someone's enrolled in a private, they've set this up in the staff portal now so that the name of the student replaces the name of the class. And they've added the little word with in front of the instructor, so it's clear that Graham's the instructor, Mark's the student, and you're going to be able to go in and clearly identify that in the staff portal. The other thing that has, we've kind of been teasing you with, that is actually now out in beta. So you're not going to see this in your database yet unless you are a beta. But we have this fantastic, when you click on attendance now, this little drop down arrow that now appears on the present button, where you will be able to mark a student late, or you can mark a student leaving early, and you can mark a student just as observing. If you go through and realize, oops, Mark didn't leave early, you're able to go back in and uncheck. So it's quite easy to use. And this is, as I mentioned, in beta right now. We've got a small group testing this, making sure that everything's working appropriately before we roll it out for everyone, but that's coming soon. And along with that, we're adding a feature tour. So once it is released to everyone, you're going to get this nice introduction that walks you through, this is how you use it, this is what it does. I've already used it a couple of times in this database, so it doesn't show up for me anymore. It's only going to show up that very first time you log in, and it's there and you use it. So that's just something nice and exciting that will be there very, very shortly. But for the betas, it's there now. So just wanted to give you a little teaser with that.
That's a really exciting one. For just to expand, Tami, sorry to interrupt you again.
You're good.
The observing, I've had a few questions on that, so I'll just clarify. For the observing, people are asking why would I use observing? Observing is typically would be used in the situation where a student has arrived at the class, but for some purpose cannot participate. So maybe they've had an injury, or they don't have their proper shoes, or what have you, anything that would prevent them from actually participating in the class. However, they are physically there. So that's just another way to keep track of how your students are attending or not. So that's a clarification. Thanks, Tami.
Well, thank you, and thanks for that. It's a nice distinction, and one that I know many of our organizations have been asking for. Okay, so our last bit of enhancements all focus on the parent portal, that our last bit that have been recently released. So we're going to go in and we're going to log into the parent portal, and I'm going to log in just a moment. One of the quick little things I'll point out, you'll now see powered by Jackrabbit Technologies down at the bottom. That's not anything major that really impacts you, but just something you might notice is a little bit different. That's to help us on our end with some internet browser things as we're going forward. And I'm going to go ahead and log in here to one of the parent accounts. And we're going to look at a couple of different things. One of the very first things that you'll see when you log in on the dashboard is this print button here. You're now able to print your student schedules as a parent straight from the dashboard. If you click this, it's going to give you all of your students at one time. So you're going to be able to print everything out nice and neat. You've got some options you'll be able to adjust with the printing if you so choose. But just a nice quick way to get the information you need. I know for my household, we have a hard time keeping track of things, so we will print it out and post it on the fridge where everybody can see. So nice little way to make use of that. You also have the option, if we'll look at Amy specifically, just one student, when you look under the enrollment for Amy, you have the option to print individually. So you can print one student at a time. We've also added under the absences tab, you can print, and then under skills, you can print as well. And both with absences and skills, if you click on the print option, we're still looking at Amy, it says, hey, you've got multiple students. We can do everybody for skills and absences if you like, or we can just print Amy's. So you've got the ability to do both there. So something, just a nice little addition there for you as well. For those of you with our Care Edition, you can also print your schedules there as well. One of the other little things that has been, or actually I kind of think this one's a little bit of a big thing, that's been added during the month of June by our developers is a new filtering option. So we're going to look at classes and events. And before we look at them, you're going to see right now we're logged in as the Black family. I have 82 classes, and I want to filter it down a little bit. And before I get to that, I want to show you a couple of things. If we go back and we look at our dashboard, when you're setting up your online web registration, looking at your settings, down towards the bottom in the class search settings, you have the ability, class search settings, filter settings there. You have the ability to customize your category 1, 2, and 3 labels. Your parents typically don't understand what category 1, 2, and 3 mean. So we're giving you the option to call them something else. In my database, category 1, which is typically your revenue, is set up by program for me. And then category 2 I use to indicate level. I didn't have a need to use category 3 in this database, so I didn't give it one. So that's just a place you want to go back and double check if you do want to customize these. So you'll see what we're going to see in the parent portal and how it's being used. The other option is to look at your portal settings. When you click on your settings tab, scroll down, you have the ability to hide your Category 1 filter, your 2 filter, and your 3 filter in your parent portal. I have all of those showing, so you're going to see how that displays in the parent portal. So if we go back to the Black family, and I use the filter option over to the right, you'll see now that I have the ability to filter results by program, which is what I labeled my Category 1, by level, which is what I named my Category 2, and then I didn't have a label for Category 3. So if you don't have those customized labels, it's just going to show up as the regular Category 1, 2, or 3. So you've got the ability to hide them, and you've got the ability to relabel them. To show you how it works, we're going to filter by program, and I'm going to choose for this one, maybe we'll pick ballet, and I'm going to add that filter. And now you can see it shows at the top I filtered by ballet, and I've dropped from more classes to 17. Well, maybe I want to add another filter. You can do multiple. So now we're going to filter by level. And this time I want to filter by intermediate. And I'm going to add that filter. So now I'm down to 8 classes. So this gives your parents the power to take all the classes that you offer and filter out just for what they need. So then they're able to go in and add them individually here. So it's a great way to help them find what they're looking for. And what's really nice about this, you can change the filters while you're going. Maybe I want to look for all intermediate level classes and I don't want to just look at ballet. So I can X that out, and now I'm back up to 37 classes, and they're all intermediate level classes. So depending on how you set up your classes, you can customize those labels. You can go in, you can hide them, you can show them in your parent portal settings, and then your parents are going to be able to filter them within the parent portal as they're looking for classes. So it's a great new way to help your parents find what they're looking for. All right, so we've got 2 more that are kind of related that just want to make it a little bit easier for you again or make it easier for your parents in their parent portal. Some of you may notice that you have a little shopping cart right here, and some of you may notice that you don't when you're logged into the parent portal. We wanted to make that a little bit clearer for your parents, and this has to do with the auto posting of your fees. For those of you who have played with it a little bit, you know we recently had an enhancement rollout for discounting and prorating your tuition fees. And currently that is activated for post-tuition fees. We'll take a quick little look at that. Let's get back to that. Through post-tuition fees, through your transactions drop down, and then for families who go through and fill out your online web registration, your new families. It has not been activated yet for quick registration for the parent portal or for the other enroll buttons throughout your database. It's in process, but we're not all there yet. So that shopping cart is getting the parent portal ready for that. So again, we'll go back and we'll look at your portal settings. If you have in your database the post-class tuition fees box unchecked, which means it will not post fees, then that shopping cart is not going to be there. That way, when your families go to register for a class, if we just pick one randomly, it gives them nice, clear instructions just to enroll in the class. There's nothing to worry about with a shopping cart. That was some feedback we got when it very first rolled out, so they're trying to make this nice and clear and easy. Well, now, if you go in and you do decide to post class tuition fees and save those changes, and we go back, and I am just going to refresh this page. It says add to cart. And when we add to the cart, you've got a nice little shopping cart up here. We're going to pick a student. We're going to enroll them. Click the add button. And it says you get a nice clear message added to the cart. You can continue enrolling for classes or events, or you can check out now. Well, I'm going to add one more. This time I want to add a birthday party. We're going to add it to the cart. We're going to say this is for a girl. Oops, we will if I can spell. And yes, I'm answering the questions and I'm signing the policy. And then I'm adding it to my cart. Oops, I missed it. There we go. Now I'm adding it to my cart and I want to go to the checkout. So you can see my cart's up here. I've got 2 items in there. And the last enhancement that was released is now there's a financial summary in the cart. So it's going to break it down. You can see what your total is. You can see the individual items. Maybe we don't want to do the advanced tumbling private, so we can X that one out, and it's going to keep it updated and interactive so you can make last minute changes. And if this all looks good, then it's just accept fees and enroll my students. And once that's done, you're going to get a confirmation alert right in your parent portal and notification that a confirmation email has been sent. So just to clarify things and make it really easy for your parents as they're going through enrolling things. And just so you're aware, the point of the shopping cart is for when that discounting and prorating enhancement rolls out. Think of it like when you go to Amazon's website and you're doing a shopping adventure and you've got a coupon for 20% off your total purchase. What the shopping cart and the parent portal is going to allow us to do is you can add in 3 or 4 classes for all of your students. You can add all your stuff in there, and then we can look at that cart all at one time to say, okay, 20% off means I need to take 20% off of all of this. And that would apply to your multi-student, your multi-class discounts, or if you're using a fee schedule as well. So it's a holder to keep things in place until that discount is actually applied. So we're getting it ready for that. So those are the enhancements that have rolled out already during the month of June. Just to kind of give you, I guess we'll do, Graham, you want to do questions before we give them a teaser for upcoming enhancements?
Well, you are all very welcome to type in any question that you might have at this time. We'll give you a moment to type those in. Right now, Tami, I'm not seeing any questions right now.
Okay.
Doing a great job, obviously, of thoroughly confusing everyone or being very clear. We can go either way.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding you. So yeah, please feel free to enter questions. And so Tami, you can go ahead with the upcoming enhancements.
All right. So upcoming, again, these are just kind of a few little teasers that we have going along. One of the things that will be rolling out in the next few weeks in July will be this weekly view button's going to get a new name. Throughout our database, we've got, it's called the weekly view, the weekly schedule, the weekly calendar. We're going to make that consistent throughout. You're going to be the weekly calendar across the board. We've got some new reports. I think I've mentioned previously some new reports coming out. The first one of those is going to be a student attendance report, so you can keep an eye out for that as well. We've mentioned with the discounting and prorating coming, the quick registration form is next. That will be the next thing that is going to start calculating discounting and prorating for you when you complete it. It is actually in beta right now. So once we have a little bit more information with that, that will be released as well. And then the discounting, prorating for the parent portal and all the other enroll buttons and links I mentioned is coming as well. In addition to a wizard that is coming out for the discounting and prorating that'll walk you through the first time you set up. If you haven't set these up yet, we mentioned previously, but just kind of to repeat, you can always get to the legacy version of how to post your tuition fees by class and by total hours. The new method is to post tuition fees, but there's going to be a wizard coming out as well towards we're thinking later summer, that'll help you walk through and set this up if you haven't used it for the first time. And just a reminder, if you're still new to this as well, that when you go to use post-tuition fees for the first time, you're not going to see your old favorites under this field, but you can click on the legacy version and find them there and then update your settings in the new post-tuition fees. So they're not missing, they're just under the legacy version still. So you'll have to put those in as new favorites in the new post-tuition fees. A couple of other teasers. We've got a version 2 of the staff portal coming and a version 3 of the setup guide coming for 2018. And we also have our developers hard at work on some new things in development for private lessons and the lead file and the big teaser, automated billing. So just some exciting things in store for you as we go forward.
Good stuff there. I do have, let's see, I have a question from Margaret, Tami. Margaret asks, where do you find the Who's Scheduled to Be Here report? If you could pull that one up again.
Great question. That's one that seems to hide a little bit. You can go to Students and Who's Scheduled to Be Here. And with any of these, you should be able to also find it under the Students tab, Who's Scheduled to Be Here down at the bottom.
And if you use it frequently, just hover over the little heart and mark that as a favorite, and then it'll be under your favorite reports.
So great. So you've got a couple of different ways you can find it and access it. Great question.
Excellent.
Anybody else?
I do have, Leonore has her hand raised. Let me just click on Allow to Talk. Hello, Leonore, are you there? You may be muted. Leonore, if you do have a question.
Yeah, I'm okay now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, well, I was not able to send the question by the chat. I just figured out was on the questions asked. So I was not finding the right field. My question was on the parent portal, if you can filter by 2 categories at the same time, or you have to go one by one.
Great question. Thank you. Tami?
Okay, so if I'm understanding, let me go through classes. So when you filter, so are you saying like, if I want to do, I don't think, I'm trying to think if I have any that will show up. If I do ballet, and then if I do,
I think you're actually answering the question right there.
Yeah.
As you enter a filter, you can now click Add Another Filter.
Mm-hmm.
So you can filter by ballet, then you can filter by a second. Oh, sorry. So, can you click the Add Filter button, Tami, again?
It's not letting me. It's not letting me pick more than one, and I don't think it will, Graham. I would want to test this a little bit more, because then it would only want to look for classes that have a category of, say, ballet and tumbling.
Right. So yeah. So the answer, Leonore, is no. You'd filter program at a time.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's a great question too.
Yeah, that was really good. Obviously, we needed to figure that one out ourselves. Any other questions, folks? Feel free to type them in. It is 35 minutes since we began the webinar, so we want to be respectful of your time. If you don't have any questions, I think we'll be wrapping up shortly. And of course, we will be sending you this recording. There was a lot of stuff covered in here today. Great information there, Tami. At this time, it doesn't appear that we have any other questions. So what do you think, Tami? Shall we call it a day and let these good folk get back to their work?
I think we might. So if you have questions after the webinar, if you're like me, I always think about them like 2 minutes after it ends. Don't forget, you can hit the help button in your database and contact support. They are there ready and waiting and happy to help you if you need anything. So
yes, they certainly are.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. A reminder, you're all pre-registered for each monthly webinar. You'll get a reminder email, and we'll be kicking this up again next month and review what we've added to the software for the month of July. So I hope all of you have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the summer months, and we will touch base with you again in the next month. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye for now, everyone.